SUV. They're aggressive, rugged, and sit high off the ground, ready to tackle any terrain, snow, mud, rain, or rocks. They're marketed as the ultimate adventure vehicle for outdoorsy families looking to escape their suburban lives in their Subaru. You see, SUVs are seen as the perfect family car. Reliable, practical, and just better than your typical sedan. But the more you look, the more you start to realize that SUVs aren't just dominating the market. They're threatening car culture, pedestrian safety, the environment, and the entire American car industry as we know it. In this video, we're going to break down how we got here, why SUVs are a growing problem, and what this means for the future of the average car. There's 3 main factors why, and I'm going to break them all down for you today. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. Before I start this video, make sure to subscribe to Durant. I make weekly videos about the automotive world, and if you enjoy these kind of videos, make sure to support and show love to the growing channel. Your support means so much to me, and this channel wouldn't be possible without you guys. Anyways, let's get back into the video. If you look at any picture or video of roads from the 70s to early 2000s, what do you see? Usually hatchbacks, sedans, sports cars, and maybe a van here and there. Now look at footage from 2025. Now what do you see? I went onto Google Street View and moved myself across about a 2-mile long road. Out of the 1,045 cars I saw and recorded, 855 of them were SUVs, trucks, or whatever you call this, or this. You see, Americans want to switch to SUVs because they're bigger, supposedly safer in a crash, and more reliable. While these are the biggest reasons people switched, it really comes to one thing: families. Parents nowadays think that your typical sedan isn't suitable for a family of 4. Why? Marketing, and the fact that most dealerships across the US barely sell sedans anymore. Car brands push SUVs onto family buyers, but in reality, if you have kids, get a sedan, station wagon, or even a hatchback. But no, Americans think their kids need 3 rows of seats and heated leather captain's chairs just to be comfortable. That's far from the truth. Just look at the average family car in Europe compared to America. It's unbelievable. So families are the main reason why SUVs dominate the streets today, but automakers made a lot of decisions to get us here. How? To put it simply, American automakers were hit with strict taxes and emissions regulations on their normal cars. So instead of adapting, they just made SUVs that didn't count as normal vehicles. Instead, they passed as light trucks, and now we're here. Ever since 2010, sedan sales have been tanking in favor of SUVs. You might think, whatever, Americans just aren't driving sedans or compact cars anymore. But the problems this creates, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The first reason why SUVs are ruining the car market, they're wiping out normal cars. Sedans, hatchbacks, compacts, even commercial vans. They're all disappearing in favor of SUVs and pickup trucks. Like I said, automakers have backed themselves into a corner where they just actually can't sell a sedan anymore. It won't sell well because customers want big. For example, Ford has dropped every car except for the Mustang. And it's not just them. Buick, Mitsubishi, Dodge, Volvo, and even Infiniti have all stopped making cars in favor of SUVs, crossovers, and pickup trucks. Every year, Americans have fewer sedans to choose from, so they just give up and buy an SUV instead. And plus, Americans hate small cars. And you want to know why? Because Americans don't fit in them. Because they feel less safe in them. Studies have shown that Americans prefer SUVs and pickups because they sit higher off the ground, supposedly feel safer in a crash, and they have that whole tough look. Another reason? Drivers in small cars get nervous sharing the road with massive SUVs, so they switch too. It's a chain reaction. One person ditches their normal car, then another, until eventually, every road looks like a dealership lot for lifted trucks and crossovers. Don't believe me? Go onto Google Street View, pick a random road anywhere in the US or Canada, and rewind through the years. The further back you'll go, the more small cars and fewer absurdly massive trucks you'll see. So yeah, sedans are being wiped out in favor of SUVs. This isn't necessarily the reason why SUVs need to go, but it leads directly into the next issue. Because once every American is driving an SUV, then you start to realize this is a terrible thing, which leads me to my next point. SUVs are gigantic, and ironically, SUV drivers are more likely to get into crashes despite switching to them because they think they're safer. SUVs are way harder to maneuver than a 2,000-pound Corolla, and their sheer size makes bad driving decisions even worse. Back then, people felt safe in small cars because they were surrounded by other small cars of similar size. That means if two cars crashed, they're what's called crash compatible. But now, if you have a small car, you're up against SUVs the size of tanks, and if your car collides with one of these, it's not going to look too good. SUVs don't just put drivers at risk, they're even worse for pedestrians. SUVs sit way higher, which means their drivers are less likely to see people crossing the road, and even worse, kids. The average SUV hood is the same height, if not taller than a child under 10. That's horrifying. If an adult or even child gets hit by a sedan, they might stand a chance, but with an SUV, you'll either get dragged under, crushed by the massive bumper, and by the time an SUV driver finally sees you from their high-up seat, it's already too late, because SUVs weigh a ridiculous amount and take forever to stop. In America, we're so used to these oversized tanks that we just walk past them without even thinking, will this 5,000-pound behemoth actually stop in time when I cross the street? So in conclusion, if you're a pedestrian, watch out for SUVs. But safety isn't the only issue. Let's talk about the environmental impact. SUVs are 14% more pollutive than cars, and they get worse every year when they keep increasing in size. When you multiply that by millions across the US and Canada, it starts looking really bad. Combine that with how terrible their gas mileage is and horrible reliability, and you start asking yourself, is this really what we want dominating our roads? Pedestrian killing, gas guzzling, sedan destroying monsters? And then there's a space problem. Go to any parking lot, and you'll see some oversized truck barely squeezing into a Walmart spot. That means bigger parking spaces, bigger parking lots, and even at houses. These things don't even fit in driveways anymore. So now modern homes need bigger driveways and even bigger garages. Why? Why would anyone buy a car that doesn't even fit in their own garage? Oh, and here's the other thing. SUVs are killing public transportation. People are buying 8-seater Cadillacs when the average American kid doesn't even know what a bus, tram, or taxi is. The entire American infrastructure is suffering because we're addicted to these massive cars automakers keep pumping out. But then, SUVs are ruining car culture, which brings me to my final point. If you're an enthusiast in 2025, you know they thrive on high-powered sports cars, sedans, and even custom builds. If car meets were just a bunch of SUVs and pickup trucks, no one would show up. And let's be real, you can't mod an SUV. Sports cars are getting discontinued left and right in favor of SUVs, leaving car enthusiasts with fewer performance options, and the ones that still exist are insanely overpriced. Back in the day, sports cars were affordable. Now, good luck finding one that isn't ridiculously expensive. The future of car enthusiasts are dying off, and automakers like it that way, because they don't want to make fun cars anymore. At this point, SUVs are completely taking over, and there's nothing you could do to stop it. Or is there? Here's what you could do. 1, don't buy an SUV, obviously. If you want a fun car, there aren't many left, so get one while you can. I'm making a video on the best first cars for enthusiasts soon, and once that video comes out, there'll be a card right here. If you have kids, get a station wagon or minivan. They're 10 times more reliable, safe, and way more space efficient. 3rd, if you do commercial work, buy a van instead of a pickup, unless you genuinely need one. Most $80,000 Silverados live their entire lives without hauling anything other than grocery bags. And that's pretty much all you could do. Now you're starting to realize the entire auto industry is at risk. Automakers are lazy, and Americans are brainwashed into thinking bigger is always better. Meanwhile, in Europe, people actually have choices. They have beautiful roads, efficient public transportation, and a way to get places around without the fear of constantly getting obliterated by a 6,000-pound Cadillac. You guys are so lucky. SUVs have taken over because of fear, marketing, and a never-ending cycle of bad decisions. And the worst part, most people don't even question it, and most Americans don't even realize how much SUVs are taking over. The death of fun, practical, and efficient cars isn't just some random accident. It's a direct result of automakers milking the SUV trend for every last dollar, knowing people will buy whatever they're told is better. The truth is, we had it better before. Cars used to be affordable, public transport used to be an option, and car culture used to be alive and thriving. Now, we're stuck with a road full of oversized, inefficient, overpriced tanks that are actively making things worse for everyone. So, what's next? Do we just accept a future where every car is a bloated crossover that gets 15 miles per gallon and barely fits into a parking space? Or do we push back before it's too late? Because once SUVs officially take over, there's no going back. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and remember people, drive safe, drive smart, but most importantly, drive something worth talking about, and not an SUV. See you in the next one.